Hey there, fellow gardeners. Welcome back to Roothaven Grounds, where we turn limited spaces into abundant growing zones. Today, I'm sharing a game-changing method that's going to revolutionize how you think about growing onions, especially if you're working with cramped quarters or wondering what to do with those old plastic buckets cluttering your shed. I know what you're thinking because I've been there myself. You've seen those videos showing onions growing in buckets with holes cut in the sides, looking like some sort of tiered vegetable apartment building. Sure, they look clever, but let me tell you, from personal experience and countless hours of trial and error in my own garden, there's a far better way to maximize your onion harvest without the hassle, stress, and disappointing results that often come with the bucket tower method. Before we dive into the superior alternative, let's talk about why those Pinterest-perfect bucket towers aren't all they're cracked up to be. When I first started container gardening at Roothaven Grounds, I was absolutely captivated by the idea of vertical growing. It seemed like the perfect solution for my limited patio space. I drilled holes, stacked buckets, and carefully planted onion sets through each opening. The reality? Those side-planted onions struggled miserably. Here's the thing about onions that most bucket tower tutorials conveniently ignore. Onion roots need consistent moisture and temperature regulation. When you plant them sideways through bucket holes, you're creating an environment where water drains away too quickly, soil dries out unevenly, and the onions closest to the top get completely different growing conditions than those near the bottom. I ended up with a handful of decent onions from the top layer and mostly disappointing, undersized bulbs from the side holes. The vertical layers also make it nearly impossible to properly check soil moisture or deal with pests without disturbing multiple plants. And don't even get me started on trying to harvest without destroying the entire tower structure. It's a logistical nightmare, wrapped in what initially looks like an ingenious, space-saving design. Here's what actually works, and it's so simple you'll wonder why anyone bothers with complicated bucket systems. Instead of fighting against how onions naturally want to grow, let's work with their biology. Onions are shallow-rooted crops that spread horizontally rather than diving deep. This makes them absolutely perfect for wide, shallow containers rather than deep, narrow ones. Take those old plastic buckets and repurpose them differently. Cut them down to about 6 to 8 inches in height, creating wide, shallow growing beds. If you have 5-gallon buckets, you can slice them horizontally to create 2 growing containers from each one. The wide top section becomes your primary planter, and even the deeper bottom section can be cut down or used for other shallow-rooted crops like lettuce or radishes. This approach gives you all the benefits of container growing without the drawbacks of vertical stacking. Your onions get consistent moisture throughout the root zone, even soil temperature, and most importantly, room to develop those beautiful, full-sized bulbs we're all after. The setup process is refreshingly straightforward. Once you've created your shallow containers, drill several drainage holes in the bottom. This is crucial because while onions need consistent moisture, they absolutely cannot tolerate waterlogged conditions. I space my drainage holes about 2 inches apart across the entire bottom surface. Fill your shallow beds with a high-quality growing mix. This is where many gardeners try to cut corners, and it shows in their harvest. I use a blend of equal parts compost, coconut coir, and perlite. This combination provides excellent drainage while retaining enough moisture to keep your onions happy. The compost delivers nutrients, the coir holds moisture without compacting, and the perlite ensures proper aeration. Trust me, investing in good growing medium pays off exponentially when harvest time rolls around. Here's a pro tip that's made a huge difference at Roothaven Grounds. Add a tablespoon of balanced organic fertilizer per gallon of soil mix before planting. Onions are moderate feeders, and starting with nutrient-rich soil sets them up for success from day one. This is where the magic happens. In a standard 5-gallon bucket cut down to 6 inches deep, you can comfortably grow 9 to 12 onion plants, depending on the variety. Space them about 3 inches apart in all directions. This might seem tight compared to traditional garden spacing, but in containers with rich soil and attentive care, onions can handle closer quarters. I prefer planting in a grid pattern rather than rows. It maximizes space usage and makes watering more efficient since you're not leaving large bare spots in the container. Push each onion set or seedling into the soil just deep enough that the roots are covered, but the majority of the set is still visible above the soil line. Planting too deep is one of the most common mistakes I see, and it can significantly reduce your bulb size. Once your onions are planted, the beauty of this system really shines. Unlike bucket towers, where watering becomes a complicated affair, shallow beds are incredibly easy to maintain. Water when the top inch of soil feels dry, which typically means every 2 to 3 days depending on your climate. The shallow depth actually works in your favor here because you can easily gauge moisture levels and ensure even watering. Position your containers where they'll receive at least 6 hours of direct sunlight daily. Onions are sun lovers, and skimping on light results in weak, spindly growth and small bulbs. One advantage of container growing is mobility. If you notice certain spots aren't getting enough sun, simply move your containers to a better location. Try doing that with a multi-tiered bucket tower. Feed your onions every 3 weeks with a balanced liquid fertilizer diluted to half strength. I've found that lighter, more frequent feeding produces better results than heavy applications spaced far apart. As your onions grow, you'll notice the tops becoming more substantial and the bulbs starting to push up through the soil. This is exactly what you want to see. After years of experimenting with various container growing techniques at Roothaven Grounds, this shallow bed approach consistently outperforms everything else for onions. The harvest tells the story. Where bucket towers gave me maybe 30% usable onions, shallow beds produce healthy, well-sized bulbs from nearly every plant. The simplicity factor cannot be overstated. Gardening should enhance your life, not complicate it. These shallow beds require minimal setup time, straightforward maintenance, and easy harvesting. When your onion tops fall over naturally, signaling maturity, you simply tip the container and harvest everything at once. No wrestling with stacked buckets or trying to extract bulbs from awkward side holes. Space efficiency is actually better too, despite what vertical growing enthusiasts might claim. You can arrange multiple shallow containers side by side, underneath benches, along walkways, or anywhere you have a sunny spot. They stack easily when empty for winter storage, and they're light enough to move around as needed. Listen, I'm not saying bucket towers can never work or that nobody should try them. I'm saying that after growing hundreds of onions in every configuration imaginable, the shallow bed method delivers better results with less frustration. It respects how onions actually grow while giving you the container gardening flexibility we small space gardeners need. Those old plastic buckets in your garage aren't junk, they're future onion beds waiting to happen. Grab a saw, create some shallow planters, and get ready for your best onion harvest yet. If this approach resonates with you, I'd love to hear about your results. Hit that subscribe button to join our Roothaven Grounds community, where we're all about practical, proven growing techniques that actually work in real gardens. Share this article with a fellow gardener who's struggling with small space growing, and let's spread the word about smarter container gardening together. Happy growing, friends!